first install this kit, we're gonna have to get rid of the old one and disconnect all the lights and stuff. So we're gonna start by using the key and removing the back seat, just like that. And then as for the driver's seat, this will also need to be removed. And this uses a hex head. So there's, if you peel the seat back, there's 2 hex heads here. All right, and then we have the driver's seat removed. Now, the next thing that we would want to do is remove this entire rear cowl here. A lot of what we will need to remove for this rear cowl is kind of just to make the wires and also the bottom end of the bike here a little bit more accessible to everything. I'm not sure if it's necessary or not, but I'm going to remove it just to make everything else easier for you guys to see and easier for me to actually get to the stuff that I need. So these little pop rivets, you just loosen out like that. And there's that one. Then we can pull those out. I'm gonna set these off to the side. Then you have these 2 Phillips heads at the back end of this entire rear cowl. All right, and then after those are removed, you just have, I believe, 6 push rivets all along here. Those would need to be removed. To get the rest of this off, just push the center in on each of these, like so. All right, once you push all those off, just gotta try to get your finger under there and pull them out. All right, and once you get all of these out, it's important that you push it back up like this, so then when you go to reinstall it, you can actually snap them back in. So each of these push pins, you want to make the pin stick it back out of the top on each of these. There we go. You got to remove the brake light. Our left turn signal one is right here. With these, all you have to do is pull the little snap up, and then the rest of the wire falls out. Again, here's our right turn signal. There's that snap. I'm just pulling that little snap up. Maybe. And the rest of the wire comes out. And then with your light here, these just slide out like so. Just give them a little tug. There we go. Keep in mind, blue went into gray, black goes into black on that one since there's multiple wires on there. All right, so now these wires are free. That's for the turn signal and the light that lights up your plate frame. Now that those are free, I'm going to go ahead and, while supporting the old OEM bracket, finish off these screws here, or these bolts I mean. So now you can see I have it off. I set 2 of the bolts down there. 2 of the bolts you can see are still hanging on here. And I'm just gently pulling these wires through the hole here. There we go. So now I have this entire assembly removed. Alright, so like I said earlier, I'd like to remove this entire rear cowl assembly. The last 2 bolts I needed to remove were these 2 right here. Now this carefully just slides off here without scratching everything up too bad. There we go. Again, I don't think this actually needs to be removed, but I'd like to just be able to show you guys the wires better. Our right turn signal was this black one here. The old LED plate light was these two spots here. And then our left turn signal is right here. This gray snap right there. And then our brake light is right here. This piece I just have hanging right now. It's hanging on by 2 push pins down there. I just removed, I kept those 2 push pins on because this doesn't need to come off. I just have the 6 push pins removed that were helping to hold this rear cowl assembly in. All right, so next what we'll want to do is start trying to get these wires out of here. And now we have the turn signals to do. So with these turn signals, I'm going to gently set this down here without scratching it too much. With these turn signals, they're snapped in to this little plastic grommet here. There we go. So I pull that plastic grommet up, and then the turn signals you kind of have to pinch and push. There we go. That was easier than I thought. I might try to reuse these. The kit does come with little plastic grommets that hold the indicator onto the old frame, but I'm going to reuse these because these are nice how the rubber bushing on the turn signal actually snaps into this little plastic piece. And the kit that I have, I don't believe the turn signal actually snaps into it. I think it's just a spacer. Yeah, so these are what you use. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other turn signal now. We're going to start to put these on the new frame. Okay, so I've got both turn signals on. I'm not gonna lie, that was the biggest pain in the ass of this entire process. I ended up using just a flathead screwdriver and starting with the more narrow end of the turn signal, and then using the screwdriver to just kind of pry the turn signal's little rubber boot down in there. I've already got the right turn signal completely fastened. I'm reusing these OEM grommets, sliding this down and clipping it into the rubber boot on the turn signal. So these 2 wires are going to get pushed through this center hole. Okay, so now that I have the turn signals mounted as well as the light, which I just put a little bit of glue on the back side of this, and it's not going anywhere now. We are fitting all of this on here. So I'm going to set the bracket down on this rear tire for now to make it easier for me to funnel these wires through. These wires are going to go through the center hole on this plastic piece, which will feed it up through here. And I'm going to want all these wires to come out the back side right here. And then, okay. So that was a little bit of a pain in the ass to get the fit on there. The plate mounting bracket itself required a little bit of bending to get to fit on here. And as you can see, my turn signals are kind of bowing backwards a little bit because of having to bend the metal to fit on there a little bit, but that's fine. Your kit comes with 4 big screws here. It also comes with a spacer. The spacer is supposed to go on before the plate frame, but I want the license plate itself to hang as high as possible, because if I'm going to install a Fender Eliminator kit, it might as well make as noticeable of a difference as possible, right? So each of the bolts come with a washer. We're going to put that washer on first, and then come up here, slide those bolts down in there in each of the 4 holes that mount the bracket. There we go. And then these nuts go along the bottom. So I'm just threading on this nut here as far up as it'll go. I'm going to go ahead and try to reconnect these lights. So remember, the light was routed around the side here. Slide that through here. Red goes where the blue went. Okay, next I'm going to take the right turn signal, which is the black wire. I'm also going to pull it through here. Find the way that that snaps in. Snaps in like that. Go. And all of this was tucked back behind here, so I'm going to try to do the same. Looks like I'm gonna have a lot of extra wire, and I do not feel like cutting it and stripping it and trying to reconnect it, so I'm going to just hide it to the best of my ability back here. Folded it up a little. Remember, this little box just slides right over that little plastic piece there. It's got that little boot. Slides on like that. There we go. Now we've got those wires pretty well hidden, I'd say. Now we're going to take this left turn signal and do the same thing. It goes up around here. Hide it underneath that, route it through this little channel here. Again, we got some extra wire, but that's okay. Then that'll connect like so. Now I'm just going to try to hide this wire a little bit. The box slides down onto that. There we go. So I did the best I can to clean up the wires a little bit. They're decently hidden. Right here is where our toolbox goes. And there we go. Wires are pretty well hidden, out of the way of everything. The plate frame is pretty sturdy on here. Next, I'm just going to try to hook this back on. And we've got just push pins and these 2 screws to put on. These 4 bolts are the old bolts that mounted the old frame. We don't need those anymore. So this, I should be able to just slide on here carefully. Look at that, perfect, tight fit. So again, this kit does come with spacers for these 4 mounting points here. I did not use the spacers though, because if I'm gonna put a Fender Eliminator on, I want the plate as high as possible. So you can see it's a very close fit right here between the license plate light and this entire rear cowl setup that has the brake lights on the bike. But it fit, and I think that'll look much more like a Fender Eliminator than it would have with those spacers. So now that this is slid on all the way, I'm going to start replacing these screws. So the first of which were these 2 screws. The last thing I need to put on here are these 2 push pins that hold in the top of this. Kind of snap it in. You don't really need to tighten them. They do have a Phillips head, but they don't really thread in very much, so I just twist as I push it down a little. There we go. Now that's snapped in. Next is putting the driver's seat or the rider seat back on. Make sure this is secure down in the front, seated down all the way. using this hex head. So we've completely removed the entire OEM license plate frame assembly and disconnected the turn signals, added the turn signals onto the Fender Eliminator kit and mounted the entire Fender Eliminator kit. Very sturdy, fit pretty easily. The only thing is the two arms that have two holes to mount it on each side were a little bit more narrow than the actual mounting points inside the tail of the bike, so I did have to stretch them out a little bit, and now these turn signals are kind of bowing backwards just a little bit, but it's not very noticeable. Fits very secure. Of course, is entirely not even noticeable compared to the OEM Fender here.